Hi, Dave here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the brand new X1 MK3. Let's check it out. So Native sent me this to try, and I've got all their other products and I love Traktor, as you know, but I always make sure that I review things fairly. So I've given you a deep dive into how to use it, what it does, how to install the software, etc, so we can have a look at all this. But before we get going into the unboxing, I just want to tell you some of the features. Now, you may have noticed from pictures that it's removed the touch bar, but it has added a lot of other things. If we quickly scan over it, we've got 5 OLED screens, 3-port power USB hub, 34 backlight buttons, 4 endless encoders, and 8 potentiometers. Ooh, turny. Now, the biggest thing for me, I like the screens, but the biggest thing are the 3 hubs at the back. This comes with a power cable, which means you can daisy chain off of this now, instead of, say, a big mixer like you had on the S8. So you can plug in 3 more X1s, an F1, Z1 combinations, whatever you want. Now, I have tried it with my USB with my music on, and it is a little bit slow as you'd expect to start off with, but seems to work fine. So this potentially could remove the need for a hub, or you get to free up another USB port on your computer. My setup would probably be the S4 MK3 into computer, this into the other USB port, because most computers now only have 2 USBs, and then I'd daisy chain F1s off of this and my music, potentially. But it's got a lot of cool features. There's a different design, as you can see. It's very sleek and matte black with the reflective OLEDs, but you can see these in the light. And it's got the cool LEDs on the back. But we'll go over this in the video. So let's get to unboxing.
Disco, stilettos. Disco, stilettos. Disco, stilettos.
So the install's nice and easy. We just need to make sure we've got the latest version of Traktor. So we go to our native access, check your available updates, go on to Traktor Pro 3, you'll see what is going to be installed. Click update, and as quick as that is done. We go into Traktor and do the firmware update. That just gets downloaded into your downloads folder, and then you just have to update it to 0.2.6. When we start up Traktor, you'll see it's flashing A.B. FX1 FX2. We can tweak this, we can move this to any combination, A.B., AC, CD, all that kind of stuff. So for these purposes, we're just going to go for AB, and we just click it. We've got a little smiley face. And then straight off the bat, you'll see there's a new screen here, which is really nice and clear, and tells us we're on effects 1 and effects 2, and we've got effects group there, and we've got a delay, which is our single there. You can see on the screen that does our wet and dry as expected, long, and then our delay, wet and dry. And then we've got our nice big buttons here, which I really like. The rotaries have got a much firmer turn than before. And the marker, the white marker, is actually prominent, quite prominent now, which is something that I'm going to have to get used to, because we're used to that being quite flush. If we work up from the top, if we click this, we have our mixer A-B, and we have our effects. So we can flick between mixer and effects. Next to that, we have the arms, as in we arm deck 2 with FX 1 or 2. Same with the other side. You can hear the clicks. It's very tactile, so you know you've pressed it. Down here, we have our scroll, and if we hold shift, we have our scroll in our tree, just like normal. This rotary here is our loop, and obviously if we click it, we arm it. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, which are the cue points. So let's load up a track here just by clicking the rotary. So let's move the loop that side there and hold shift, and we can just move along just like we would do on any others. Hit 2, comes up. Now you can't see this, but the lights do show up different colors. So the number 1 is white, number 2 is blue. and we can just flick between them. Just like we would on the other X1s. On here we have our nudge. It's our pitch bend. And then we have our cue, obviously what it does. And if we hit reverse, that's actually flux reverse. Nice. If we hit shift and reverse, that actually activates flux. And if we hit it again, it gets rid of flux. We also have our play and our sync. So apart from the looks, it pretty much does what the X1 Mark II does. It doesn't have that touch strip anymore, but we do have here the two displays. Now this one here is now giving me my loop size. If I do the loop size to say 32, it will actually then display it on the right hand side. It tells me what deck I'm in, tells me the song, and also, which I really like, it tells me how long I've got for the song left. That means you don't have to look at your computer if you don't want to or don't need to. You can have a look down here. So if you look at it here, we've got 8 beats, which we can click and it lights up. And if you unclick it, it takes it away. Now, one thing to note, if you do hit the loop active and it's not playing and you want to turn it off, you will have to hold shift and click it off. But while you're playing it, you can turn it on and off as you would. Let's have a quick look at the options. And we have the browse encoder, which is shift and turn, which will browse up and down the tree. Or we can browse our favorites. I don't actually set up my favorites much. I have mine on the left-hand side, so I would use tree. Shift and pushes expand the tree or the folder. So for example, if we hold shift and scroll down, and let's just say we want playlists, hold shift, click it, and it'll open it up. Same with that one there. Loop encoders, we've got beat, jump, loop, but this is a good one as well, adjust key semitones. So where we had beat, jump, loop, so if I, now close that, if I want 8 beats movement in deck B, I can just hold shift and move it across. And I use this quite a lot when I'm prepping my tracks. And you can also do that while you're playing. But if you want to, you can do semitone adjustments. So if we put key on, when this is in key mode, we can hold shift and click it and it will turn the key lock on. And then we can see it says 1M on the screen, and we can change it up by 1, which would be 8M, 3M, etc. Moving all the way up to 12 plus and minus, if you want to hear that. Click it off, click it on to reset. Now you may know this or you may not, but one thing I really like is if you look at the key in the browser here, you'll see which one it's compatible with. So at the moment it says 1M, but if I change that while I'm playing, watch these flash and change as well to say, oh, that's me. So 1M, 8M, and then it flashes down to that one. 3M will go with 3M, 4M. Nice little touch. What's interesting to note is if you've got key on, therefore you can press shift and turn the key on and off. If you have it on beat jump loop, that will not turn the key off, it will do the loop instead. This is where if you do just use this controller, you'll need to prep it in advance. So I definitely want key lock on, or I definitely want the beat jumps on. Now if we go down, we can see the numbers, hot cues 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the number buttons. So we can actually make them 1, 2, 3, 4, which is what they are. So if I close that and it says delete 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want to set a cue point there, I can then delete it as well. And shift works for both A and B. So you can just hold shift and press whichever one you want. Our other options are 5, 6, 7, 8, loop in and out. So you can use this one as loop in, loop out. And then you've got your stutters, and you've got your absolute and relative as well. Most people are going to have it on 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where it's cool, because then if you do want it on 5, 6, 7, 8, therefore you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, hold shift, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you won't be able to delete them with that. You'll have to change that back. But I can see a lot of people using it this way instead of the delete option, because you should have really prepped that in advance, unless you're doing it on the fly, of course. So we can have that however we want. And it's just making the mapping easier. It's really nice because obviously, because if you've never done mapping, or you know how to map, you know that it's not the quickest of things. It's brilliant, but it's not the quickest of things, whereas this is nice just to have this option. Then we have the nudge buttons, which were these here. Now this is really good if you're using sync and your beat grid's just out. So you can then move it up and down, or should I say left to right, to make it a bit faster, a bit slower. But you don't have to use it for that. You can use it to beat jump. Now again, this would be cool if you want to use this for key change. So you're removing this option. The problem with that is you can only move it a set amount. So I would then have that as loop. Therefore, I can then go, whatever I set my loop is 2, I can then move across, or 416. Because they've given me this option, this is definitely how I'd have it set up. I would have this one on tempo bend and this one on beat loop. Therefore, I would then change that to key adjustment semitones, definitely, because that then gives me the best of everything. And I'd probably go 5, 6, 7, 8 on that. So therefore, I've changed this already. The only one I've kept the same is this. This is my preference. Remember, nothing's right or wrong. It's just how you want it set up. But this is how I definitely would have mine set up. Just on the semitone, if I right-click on this and do it min, it only ever does one semitone. That's a shame. I was hoping it would be able to do whatever we selected. No, and just let's try switch. No. So just be aware that you can only change that by ones, not increments or 2s or 4s or switch. But that means I can turn the key lock on. I can press play. I can then set my loop however I want, take it out, and then I've also got my 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 as well. Also, then I'd be able to just nudge if I wanted to, or I could then move it along. So already that's definitely how I'd have mine set up. Lastly, we've got the deck focus, we've got the remaining time. Now, if I change it to elapsed time, you can see on the screen it changes, and we go loop size. Now again, I wouldn't have these two options on, because one, I don't really care how long the track's been playing. I can quickly see it anyway. But the remaining time is obviously really important. And the loop size, when I move it, you can see it changes there anyway. And it stays there in the screen. So to me, that's a bit of a waste if you do choose loop size. But it's up to you which one you choose between these two. Now if we put it into mixer mode, we've now got these as high, mid, low buttons. Now this is what I've been missing. And I don't know if you know what kill switches are, but basically it just kills it. So instead of having to do this or this, which obviously you can sweep, back in the day when we were on vinyl, when it first started, we used to have kill switches, and it's one thing I wish they hadn't got rid of. But they've brought them back. Thank you, Native Instruments. So now we've got kill switches, which I love. So if I play this, it just kills the bass. Love it. I'm totally going to use these. This is something that I've always wanted back. Kill switches and punch buttons for the crossfader. This is my headphone. And this is actually my fader. You see this? This is all the way down. So if you're a bit of a rotary fan, this should be good for you. This is new muscle memory for me. But that's a cool feature as well. So that's in mixer mode. Now it'll have soft takeover on. So if you do put it on the effects, move this, you see that's on 12 o'clock, and then hit back to mixer, and then go down, you see it doesn't do anything, and it won't do anything because this has to be all the way up to reach the fader at the top. Now you can move it up and down. If you want to, for instance, leave it there, flick it back to effects, you have to then bring it back to wherever the rotary is on the effects. So at 12 o'clock, we can bring it there, you see, and then bring it back to mixer. It won't change the effects, but we need to then bring it to wherever the fader is on the screen. Hope that makes sense. Drop me a comment if you're not sure what I mean, but it's on a soft takeover. So there's a nice little feature, the fact that you can use the volume, and it also tells you on the display at the top, tells you exactly what you're at, which again, really like. Flick that back. If I move that, then move that back, it tells me I've got to get to volume 75 before it will take over. There we go. Love that. That's really cool. Also, when we're moving this, again, depending on if you can see your screen or not, this you saying you're affecting the high by a certain amount, mid, and low. Really nice. And if you're in a mixer effects, these still work as arming the effect. So you've got, in a nutshell, left and right arming, high, mid, low, kill switches for high, mid, low, fader volume, and headphone cue. If we go to the effects, again, this shows you what you are moving. So this is the feedback. We've got the high pass filter, and we've got the wet and dry there as well. And we can click them on and off. And these, I have to say, I wasn't sure about these buttons, but I actually now prefer these to these. So Native Instruments, if you're listening, can we have everything like this? Because these are really nice. And if you're in the dark and you need to know which button you're on, there's a little nipple on these two, just like there is on a keyboard, so you know exactly where you are. So touch typing for DJing. So now you've got control of your effects 1 and 2, and your cue points 1 to 8, plus your key change, your volumes, and your EQs. That's a lot. You can do a lot with this already. The fact that you can flip between the two, and it's really nice and simple. I've still got to get used to this though, because they are sticking out and very high. Sticking out is okay because you can feel it. Not just sure about the high myself, but again, that's something just to get used to. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just I'm not used to it. So just like all the other controllers, Traktor do a great job of making sure you can go into MIDI mode. So if you hold shift and you hit the burger, you go into MIDI mode, which if you need to know how to MIDI map, you can see one of my previous videos, or if you want to know how to map this one specifically, or you want another video just having a look at how beautiful this is, feel free to drop me a comment and I will see what I can do. Lastly, let's have a look at the colours. This is nice and simple, straightforward. We can just click and choose which one we want. So we've got the default, which is the orange at the top for the effects, blue for the bottom, green for the play, and mixer is all blue. So that's the default. We can then just select red, and that does a blanket over all buttons and mint, etc. The assign buttons, let's make those green. And you can see at the top, they're green. Effects buttons, let's make them blue. So you can see they're now all blue. The number buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can have them as default. Let's just change these ones here and turn that into 3. Now, with this one, I personally would advise having the default, because if you do use Traktor, you're used to the fact that green are loop cues, which means you could then confuse this. And also, at number 1, that's our grid lock cue. So if we go back to number 1 here, if we then change that to red, we don't know that that's the one. Yes, it's on the screen as white, but it could confuse you. And again, with green, if I change this back to default and then set a cue and then set that, there's your green. It quite clearly then shows. So if you have that as default, you can see white is my grid cue, blue are my normal cues, and then I've got a loop cue there. So again, it's up to you what you do, but just be aware that if you are using this, you might get confused. As in, I would get confused. You might be fine. Then we've got our nudge buttons, which are these two here. Now, this is something that I probably would have different because it does stand out then over these, and I would have something that's completely different. Now, we know that the cue points colours on Traktor are white, orange for markers, green and blue. So I would probably have something like a violet or something that stands out. Fuchsia. Yeah, there we go. So then, therefore, we don't confuse that with any of the normal Traktor colour scheme. Then we have our play, cue, sync, reverse, everything like that. So you can have that. You can see they're all different. Again, I would keep them probably as default. I'd probably change my play button because I don't want that green to clash with the loops. So again, I could have that as a plum. The purples don't show up as well. I don't know if you can see that on camera. If you have the violet, they're a lot fainter or harder to see. So again, fuchsia's quite a cool one, but it's up to you. Then you got your sync. Again, I'd probably match that with theirs because it just makes it easier. And then we've got our end warnings. Now, these are the bottom ones. So these are these ones down here. Now, I've got the GoPro on so you can hopefully see it. So one thing I really like is the end warning. So if I put this down to the end warning here, which is 22 seconds, you will see it flashes. I like that touch. And it actually flashes quicker than the screen, which I'd actually like that. So I'm definitely going to have that on. Sync warning, what that does is if we've got this in sync here, and I'm syncing to the master clock, then if I then move the pitch bend left and right, so if I've got sync on, press play, and I move this left and right, now it's highlighted, so you can see that. Pull that down. So at the moment we're in perfect sync, as in this beat grid is in 128, exactly like that. Now if we press left twice, you'll see this lights up. Weirdly, it doesn't go out on the first one. I'm not sure why. Native Instruments. 3 on the right and it lights up. 2 on the left and it lights up. I can work with that. And then we have our active loop. So as soon as you hit an active loop here and go into it, it goes green. Again, another reason why I wouldn't mess with the colours too much, because I can then hit shift and then turn that into a 5, and you can see that's green there. So this is on an active loop now, and if I remove that, it goes to red. And if the end warning's flashing but you hit a cue, obviously it can go on forever, so that overrides the end warning. So you can see end warning green. And then you can choose the colours. So at the moment, let's just click this off. At the moment, there's no lights on at all. But if I then choose, I don't know, a turquoise, it will always be turquoise. Now, it really does matter, and please be aware, it really matters what base you've got this on. I've got this on an orange base, so it's not reflecting a lot. And if you had it on a dark base, that would show probably better, and definitely a white base would show it and reflect it better than what I've got. And if I'm top down, I can see a little bit of light, but not loads. However, like I said, if you're on black or white, you're probably going to see it better. Also, I would just say be careful of what colour you pick, because if you do pick a green, then that might confuse you with your active green. So if I press play, we're now in green, which could confuse you if you are using then the loop. What would actually be nice is, I don't know whether it would be a different state, like it would flash or something, or if you had the choice to have a solid colour for just standard and then flash when something's active, because then it changes like how you read it. So again, if I have this if I had it in dark orange, that's not going to confuse me because I know that it's going to flash. Which is why I think what would be really cool is if you did have that on and it flashed and you had it on green, it would flash as well to say that the loop is on and it's active. That would be really cool. But there you have it. Those are the colours.
There you have a general overview of what this is capable of, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. I just want a big shout out to Mick and Native Instruments for supporting me again after all these years, so thank you very much. This, I have to say, and I'm not biased. Am I biased? No, I'm not biased. I do love Traktor stuff because it's good, not because I've been told it's good. And I just want to say that this is really, I think it's really cool. And like I said in the video, I love these buttons, so I want to see more of these, please, Native. And does this start the line for, I don't know, maybe a new line of controllers out there? I hope so, because I like to play with my DJ gadgets. Big shout to Matt Francis for the music for this video. Thank you very much. Go and check him out on SoundCloud. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.